Today we celebrate the feast of St. John and the beloved disciple, St. John the Evangelist, St. John the Gospel writer. And of course, yesterday we celebrated the feast day of St. Stephen, and the day before that, and we celebrated Christmas. And so we had Christmas just 2 days ago. Yesterday we celebrated the feast day of St. Stephen, who's the first martyr in the church. And today we have St. John, the beloved disciple. And John is very unique in a lot of different ways. He's one of the 12 apostles. He's the youngest of the 12. He's the only one that stayed at the cross with Jesus. And there's a lot of things in his gospel that are unique and that we don't find in any other gospel. For example, in the beginning of his gospel, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made." And John has this very unique divine genealogy, if you will. Luke and Matthew talk about the human genealogy. John helps us to see that really Jesus was in the beginning with God. He was always with God. There was never a time where he wasn't with God. And so we see that in John's gospel. There's a lot of stories that all of us will be familiar with. The wedding feast at Cana, the Samaritan woman, the raising of Lazarus, the washing of the disciples' feet. All of these stories are not in any of the other gospels. They're only in John's gospel. And you could ask the reason, well, why is that? John was with Jesus a lot. He was with him from the beginning and all the way to the end. He remembers things that others did not. He wants to record them. He wants to give them to us, and he does a good job of doing that. St. John also wrote 3 letters, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and then he wrote the book of Revelation. So the book of Revelation also comes from John. And there's really 2 stories I just want to focus on today. And one is that John is there at the cross with Jesus. And Jesus is dying. He knows that he's dying. And he says to John, "This is your mother." And he says to his mother, "This is your son." And John, as the beloved disciple, really represents all of us. And so Jesus gave his mother to all of us. Mary is our spiritual mother, and that happens at the cross. That happens in a special way through John. And again, John was there, and John remembers, and John records it in his gospel. The other passage we heard today in our actual gospel, where it really is Easter time. They're going to the tomb, and in John's gospel, he always calls himself the beloved disciple. And it says that the beloved disciple arrived there first. He waited for Peter. It actually says it twice. And this is another proof that John wrote this gospel, because he wanted to make sure that everybody would know for all time that he was faster than St. Peter. And he also wanted to make it known that he waited for him because Peter had already been chosen by Jesus to be the leader in the early church, to be the first pope. And so he respects him, he waits for him. And we see that in these stories. Last thing I want to mention today is John is also unique because in his gospel, Jesus says things like, "I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door of the sheep. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the good shepherd. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I am the true vine." And so in John's gospel, we have all these I am statements. And Jesus is saying, I am God. I am the Son of God. I've come to give you the bread of life. I've come to bring light into this world. I've come to be the good shepherd for you. I've come to rise from the dead, and I will rise from the dead, and I will give you life. And I am the way. I'm the way to God the Father. I am the truth. There is only truth in me, and as you hear my words, you receive the truth. And I am the true vine, and I want you to be connected to me. And lastly, one other thing Jesus says in John's gospel is that I came that you might have life and have it abundantly. And so today we get to experience that abundant life, the life that Jesus gives us through him, through his Eucharist, through this Mass on this special day. And we open up ourselves to that. We open up ourselves to the graces that come from Christmas. Christmas actually lasts for 8 days in the Catholic Church. And the Eucharistic prayer that I'll pray today, there's a piece of it that I'm praying for 8 days on the same words. And so during these 8 days, let us receive all that God has for us. Let us receive life and truth and abundance. And we open up ourselves to that this day in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.